Congresswoman Granger hasn't cast a vote since July, and there was a local reporter in Dallas who looked into this and found the 81-year-old has been living in a local memory care and assisted living facility for some time. That was not shared with the public. Were you and others in the Texas delegation aware?
I wasn't aware. I think there's no doubt a lot of us knew that she was gaining in age, like a lot of members do.
Republican Representative Granger's mysterious absence for Congress was exposed over the weekend after a group of Texas reporters learned that the 81-year-old Congresswoman was living in a senior care facility. Of course, fellow Republicans like Tony Gonzales will play dumb because of their small majority in the House, but we'll get to that more in a minute. Especially with the funding bill vote garnering so much attention, people began to notice the absence of Granger, who's been MIA. According to Granger's roll call vote page, Granger's last vote was on July 24th, 2024, as she voted no to the amendment in the House to HR 8998 to reduce the salary of Yahweh Lee, Deputy Assistant Administrator for Pesticide Programs, to $1. Since then, Granger has not cast any votes in Washington on behalf of her Tarrant and Parker County constituents. A group of reporters with the Dallas Express tried to get to the bottom of this prior to Friday's vote, attempting to contact her office by phone and in person. Upon arrival, we found the door locked, front door glass window covered, no one inside, and no sign of the office being occupied. When we asked the employees at the West Bend building where Granger's district office is located what happened to Granger's office, we were told that her team had packed up and closed the office before Thanksgiving. But she didn't just decide to relocate her office. We then received a tip from a Granger constituent who shared that the Congresswoman has been residing at a local memory care and assisted living home for some time after having been found wandering lost and confused in her former cultural district / Ward 7th neighborhood. The Dallas Express team visited the facility to confirm whether Granger was residing there and to inquire about how she planned to vote on the spending bill. Upon arrival, 2 employees confirmed that Granger is indeed living at the facility. Taylor Manzel, who is the Assistant Executive Director for the Senior Living Facility, acknowledged to the Dallas Express that this is her home. Now, this was corroborated by the internet sleuthings of Ken Klippenstein, who discovered she transferred the deed to her home back in July. So, Cenk, we've got more, but I want to bring you in here. Here we are again. As Ken Klippenstein points out, the mothball mafia continues to grow. We're finding more and more people who are clearly not cogent, clearly not with it, but they're still serving in Congress, which has a lot of responsibility. What do we do about this, and how many more are there, do you think?
Well, first of all, Ken Klippenstein is not the only investigative reporter around here. I found a picture of the senior care facility she's actually in.
No way.
I did, yeah, here, let's show it. Okay, so guys, this story has so many interesting parts to it because it shows you actually what politics in America is. It's not about just one senior citizen who apparently has dementia, right? That's not what this story is about. This is about how terrible all of American politics is. So let me break it down for you guys. First, most damning of all, no one missed her. Like they didn't even know she was gone, right? So it shows you how irrelevant the politicians are. They're just widgets. They're just like servants for the donor class. And you're like, oh, the waiter didn't show up, but it doesn't really matter because you know who the boss is, right? So this widget was voting in that way, and then whichever widget replaces her will vote in the same exact way, right? There'll be no difference at all. So that's why they're not missed. Like, since July, she won re-election. Okay, that gets to the second damning point. The media in our country absolutely sucks. You didn't notice that she was in a senior care facility and was wandering around lost and confused during the entire campaign, okay? But no, that's like when New York Times, after AOC beat Joe Crowley in one of the biggest upsets in American history, they realized who AOC was. Because they're used to, this is the main thing mainstream media does. Leading candidate in the race has raised a lot of money. Congratulations to them. Everybody else is a bunch of losers who are irrelevant. Okay, so Yes, she raised the most money because she's in the widget machine, right? And so that assembly line of donor money came into her, and I'm sure that we should look into that. I bet the local press said that she was the favorite and amazing candidate and blah blah blah, because nobody cares. There is no real accountability in America. There is no real media in America at that level. And of course the money in politics, right? So as long as her campaign team is raising the money and then they spend it on ads or whatever, she never has to show up for a debate. She never has to show up for anything. Nobody ever demands a debate. I know I ran locally, like the arrogant woman who wound up losing to the Republican didn't want to do any debates. Finally, we had to drag all the candidates, and because I was in the race and because there was more drama in the race and et cetera, finally we got one debate. But the whole time, the major candidates are running away from debates, running away from any discussion. And that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is the press applauds them. Like, we did a debate without the major Democratic candidate once, and it looked like the press was like into it. A couple of them came, the place was raucous. It was like a really good debate with a lot of people, et cetera. And the main headline was about how the rest of us unfairly criticized Christy Smith, who was away at work. Come on. So that's why this story's not at all surprising. I did like that brother's line though. She's not super old. She doesn't have dementia. She's gaining in age.
As one does, as one in Congress does. Yes. Now, we've got more, but I do what you're talking about. How do they not even recognize this? How do they not know this? And I don't want to put the blame solely at the Dallas Morning News's feet. I mean, every print publication in this country is struggling. And some people pointed out correctly that Dallas Express is a pretty far to the right new publication that was acquired by a billionaire that used to be an African-American publication in Dallas. And the CEO of that paper tried to primary Kay Granger a couple years ago and lost. And some people said, okay, well, this is probably why they're looking into it. But really, it's that they just realized when they needed every last vote that she was nowhere to be found. So it was a little bit of happenstance, a little serendipity, and it was also probably that he wants her out so he can run. But again, I don't want to put the blame solely at the Dallas Morning News's feet, because every print publication is really, really struggling. But according to Politico, a statement from Granger's office stated she was not in a memory care, but didn't deny anything else from the original report. Instead, her son confirmed she was at an independent senior living care with, quote, dementia issues. Representative Granger's son said she has been having some dementia issues late in the year. Brennan Granger, 52, told the Dallas Morning News Sunday. It's been a hard year, adding that it's been a surprise how quickly the health issues have progressed. Apparently, Granger wanted to make the move to be more in an active community with older people, per her son. Again, though, she has that in Washington. So I don't know, what do you mean you want a sense of community with older people like you?
I mean that place, no joke, and I've told you guys this before, the reason why there's so many incredibly old people is because the donors think that they provide a good return on investment. They're guaranteed, their returns are locked in. They know all the older politicians are corrupt, minus Bernie Sanders. So they've been giving money to them for decades, and then they have gotten favors in return for decades. You got a younger guy, well, it's a little bit riskier. I mean, he is promising to kiss your ass, but maybe he won't deliver for you in the way that the older ones do. And the older ones, they're not even there. There was a Democratic guy that we talked about last week who was getting rolled around. Nobody remembers his name because he's been hiding in a cave his whole career. And well, you don't, out of the 535 people in Congress, maybe you know 35 of their names. What are the other 500 doing? I mean, they're in assisted living or they're not. What difference does it make? The whole building's assisted living, right? So it's just, it's the number one cause of all of this is money in politics. Otherwise, you'd have real elections and people would care, and you'd have debates and you'd argue over ideas and debates. Now there's none of that. I mean, look, Jordan's right. Print is way better than television to begin with, but some of the larger print organizations are horrific, like the LA Times in that 2020 race that I ran. They did one smear against me, and in the middle of the the reporter calling me about the smear, he asked all these hilarious questions. Is it true that you're attracted to women? Yeah, I guess that's true.
Does your wife know?
Yeah, my wife knows. Anyway, but then I asked him, I said, are you guys ever going to actually cover the policies that we're debating in this race? And to the brother's credit, he was like, no, probably not. We don't have enough resources. But funny enough, you did find enough resources to call me anti-Muslim when I'm Muslim. Okay, and you did find enough resources to smear me in every conceivable way because God forbid Bernie Sanders win, and I was connected to Bernie Sanders, so that was a nice way to torpedo him. You could always find resources to take out populists who are outsiders who hate money in politics. But if you love money in politics, we don't care if you have dementia or you're on Mars or you already died, who cares? I mean, Dianne Feinstein, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, they were wheeling her around, she literally couldn't talk. And they're like, no, she means I'm in charge. Okay, if you say so, brother.
Yeah. Well, we've got some more updates from her son, who added some detail about her day-to-day life. There's nothing wrong with someone wanting to live in a community with other folks their age. She's in a building with a lot of other folks her age that are super active, that she really loves. She has exercise classes, she gets to be around people all the time. It's wonderful for her at this point in life. And again, she's still a member of Congress. She has a job. The taxpayers pay her salary. And her decline has been evident for a long time, and people just continued to let this behavior slide. Take a look.
We considered House bills individually on the floor, and we avoided a massive, ominous measure. In total, we increased defense funding and made target cuts. We also maintain our legacy under my colleagues on the other side of the aisle.
That was in March of this year. Now, Granger is set to retire at the end of her current term, and her staff will remain on taxpayer payroll until January 3rd. And effectively, her district has had zero representation in Congress since her unannounced leave. But I just, in the sake of time, there's just, it's more and more we're finding out about these types of people. Of course, you mentioned Feinstein. Even John McCain, I know he was a hero in his waning days. He did die in office at 81.
Yeah, and then there was the David Scott that we covered last week. Ken Klippenstein also wrote about that, and that's the congressman who yelled, "Why are you taking a picture of me, a-hole?" Okay, because you're a United States congressperson and I'm in the press. But they do find that genuinely outrageous. And remember, guys, Wall Street Journal just broke the story about how the Biden staffers were concerned that Biden had dementia the minute he stepped into office back in 2021, right? And how many people broke that story? Zero. Mainstream media. 4 long years, apparently the president had some form of mental decline, and not a single reporter in the country was able to break the most important story there is. Why? Because they're not trying to break that story. And they're not trying to tell you about money in politics and who actually controls these politicians. They're trying to cover for them and tell, oh no, he's young and dynamic behind the scenes, you should see him, right? And oh, they're amazing and they're this and they're that and they're having real debates and they have ideologies and oh my God, the guy with the most money is the leading candidate, everybody vote for them. Mainstream media isn't part of the solution, they're a massive part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, just final point. In 2019, during the Democratic primary, Castro and Booker both, after debates, talked about how Biden clearly had mental decline issues. And then as soon as he became the nominee, that became a conspiracy theory. Just something to think about.
Yeah. No, I called it out in the 2020 primaries and people were furious. They're like, oh yeah, because you support Bernie. Now you're worried about a little mental decline, okay? And half the time people who said that weren't Democrats, they were reporters. They're a joke. The national reporters are a giant joke. They're not trying to break any stories about the corrupt people in power. All they're trying to do is support them. So congratulations, media. You found one in an assisted living facility. Okay, 534 left to go.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.